I do have a saying that is, winning is a journey of integrity. Integrity means something, I think, different to everybody, but basically along the lines of alignment. Am I aligned with who I am, what I believe in, and that's winning.
Welcome to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle, with your host, Rob Schultz. Rob is the founder and president of Schultz Wealth. All opinions expressed by Rob and his guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Schultz Wealth Limited. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Please refer to our website for more information.
Welcome everybody to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle. I am your host, Rob Schultz, and today, this is really cool, New York Times bestseller. Mm-hmm. You've been 135 miles an hour on skis,
right,
which I think you're crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Two-time Olympian.
One time.
One time.
Yeah.
Okay. One-time Olympian. Very, very interesting individual. We have Vince Poscente.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Good to be with you, Rob.
Yeah, and I pronounced your name right.
You did. You
and
nailed
you're Canadian.
We'll make you an honorary Italian Canadian.
Yeah. You know, so Shelly and I watch a lot of hockey, so we get pretty good.
I like you already, especially Shelly. Yeah, that's great. She's a hockey fan?
Huge.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's say that we're Stars fans.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, which is really exciting.
This might be their year. You never know.
It could be. Yeah, we're really excited about it.
I'm originally from Edmonton, so when the Oilers and the Stars are destined to play against each other, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah, and it's just going to be, oh God, I don't even know what to do. I'm going to hide underneath the sofa.
Yeah, because you live here in Dallas.
I'm married a Texas gal. We've been married for 28 years, but you can't get you can get the Albertan out of Alberta, but you can't get the Alberta out of the Albertan. Does that sound right? Anyways.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's really good to have you on.
Yeah.
Go a little bit different today. You know, this is you're a motivational speaker, like I said, New York Times best-selling author. Yeah. I feel like you're going to drip a lot of wisdom on us here. We have a couple of your books here. The first one is The Ant and the Elephant. Okay. Mm-hmm. And describe to us kind of what this book is about real quick.
Well, I went from recreational skier to Olympics in 4 years. And instead of me talking about that story, what's more important to the reader is how did you do that? How did you get to the Olympics in 4 years from a standing start?
How old were you?
I started racing when I was 26 and I was in the Olympics at 30.
Okay. That's a late start kind of.
Oh, yeah. That's when the word dude was showing up a lot, and people would call me dude, and I'd be the old guy going, don't call me dude.
Don't call me that. Yeah.
Yeah, the old fuddy-duddy. But anyway, that formula that I used to get to the Olympic Games coincided with learning a lesson from a guy named Dr. Lee Poulos.
Okay.
And Poulos found that in a second of time, your conscious mind processes with 2,000 neurons. So in a second of time, your conscious mind is processing what I have to say. You might be thinking 2,000 neurons, putting it into context. And we're making decisions on everything from what we want to eat today to the kind of marriage we want to have to the business we want to build. All those things are conscious decisions with 2,000 neurons every second.
So in other words, made very quickly? Is that what you mean? What does that mean?
That means that those neurons are communicating with each other in a very complex pattern to make decisions. So they're
just going, like in your brain. But
that's 2,000 neurons. In the same second, the subconscious mind is processing with 4 billion neurons.
Okay.
With a B.
All right.
So 2,000 conscious and 4 billion neurons subconscious. Who's in control, right?
The subconscious.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the grand illusion. We're making decisions. You're going to make decisions on what you want to do with your business. But what's the subconscious agenda? And is the subconscious agenda malleable? Are we able to construct a subconscious agenda that's in alignment with our conscious decisions? And that's what The Ant and the Elephant's about. How do you create that alignment? How do you make a decision consciously to go to the Olympic Games in 4 years from today as a recreational athlete and be in those gold medal round in the Olympics in 4 years from then? And it was absolutely because I aligned conscious intention with a subconscious agenda.
Okay, so which one's the ant? That's the conscious?
Yep.
And the subconscious is the elephant.
Correct.
So the ant has to basically lead the elephant and be in alignment.
Yeah, that's why I wrote a parable.
Yeah.
The ant's, trucking along. He's having a great day, and he goes, "Hey, I hear about this oasis. I want to go to the oasis." And he finds out the oasis is west. So the ant starts marching west, but ends up east and going, what's going on here? Like, I'm marching west, but I'm east. And then he's instructed, you are walking on the back of an elephant. I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
So the instructor, the mentor, is an owl. I couldn't be any more creative than a wise owl. But this owl instructs the character in the book, the ant, on how to go through 5 C's to be able to accomplish that alignment with the ant and the elephant.
Oh, cool. So the ant's on the back of the elephant, basically going the wrong way.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe the elephant's going the wrong way.
Look at your results. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look, are you in the place that you intended on being?
Yes. Use a compass.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, know the direction. But even a compass will take you, hey, there's west. I want to go west. But what if you still end up east? What if you say, I want to go on a diet, and the subconscious mind, sub meaning below conscious decision making, is making the decision to go east?
Well, that
I'm not going to go on that diet, said the subconscious mind. So how do we convince the subconscious mind that this is a good idea?
How do we do that?
That's in the book. I'll save you $20 and tell you.
Well, give me just like a general idea.
Yeah. So the first thing, the thing that I get in my consulting practice all the time is one question: what do we do? And that's not where you start. In fact, where you start is what I call the emotional quotient, or the emotional buzz. If something has emotion attached to this decision, it's the subconscious mind saying this is a good idea. And some decisions cause fear. Stephen Pressfield wrote a book called The War of Art. And in it, he said, if it scares you, it's important to you. So there's stuff going along below the surface, the subconscious mind with 4 billion neurons every second firing off and communicating with each other. Well, how do we make sure that we're picking the right decisions, that the subconscious mind goes, this is a good idea?
So if you're scared?
If you're scared, it's important to you. If it gives you energy, it's important to you. If the thought of it sends a tingle up and down your spine, then it's a good idea.
Okay.
An emotional buzz is a litmus test for the ant and the elephant, the 2,000 neurons and the 4 billion neurons headed in the same direction. And it doesn't have to make sense. That's the really interesting thing about this. It just has to feel right. It doesn't have to make sense. Going to the Olympic Games in 4 years from today, from a standing start, makes no sense.
Going 135 miles an hour on skis makes no sense. Yeah.
So, to have that alignment at the get-go is the first of the 5 C's, which is clarity. And in the book, and every author will tell you this, they'll write a book and they'll go, I wish I could have changed this. One of the things I would have changed, instead of it just calling clarity of vision, it's clarity of experience. You can see it, smell it, taste it, touch it. I mean, all the 5 senses, and the sensation of gratitude, the sensation of joy, of abundance, of all these sensations or senses of what it feels like to have that truth. If it has that emotional buzz, that's clarity. Then you're ready to commit. So often we commit without real clarity on what we want to do and accomplish. We'll say, yeah, I'm in. Well, you're married. How long have you been married?
Over 30 years.
Okay, over 30 years. So you've been to a bunch of weddings in those 30 years, watching a couple walk down the aisle going, get ready.
You have no idea.
You have no idea what this I do means in the level of commitment, right? They're going to commit and I do, and everybody's happy. Woo! And then all of a sudden, the level of commitment ends up being, instead of episodic that Saturday, it ends up being a process of commitment, elevating your commitment dynamic, right? And then the third C in here is consistency. And the consistency is very often associated with the things I do, the mechanics of it. But are those mechanics aligned with what the subconscious mind will resonate with? See, there's counselors, psychologists who will never go out of business because a half an hour every week somebody comes back for mentoring or counseling. And there's these little navigational tools to be able to say, okay, that's why I do what I do. Oh, that's what I do. And that's why I say this.
Yeah, okay.
And so even your customers, in terms of, the financial decisions they make, right? Are they making great decisions on a daily basis? Could their decision making be better? And a lot of it has to do with this consistency piece. So that's uncovered in The Ant and the Elephant. And then the fourth C is about confidence. And confidence has to do with its relationship to fear. When fear is high, confidence is low. And what happens to your performance when fear is high and confidence is low?
You underperform.
It's diminished,
yeah.
Right? You underperform, and then your results are compromised, right? So what do? We say, I don't like these results. I want to change those results. So what do I do to get better results? And again, we're going back before, what do I do, to the confidence equation. And confidence is an essential piece to peak performance as an athlete, to get to the Olympics, or in business, or in relationships, or a relationship with ourselves, right? It's the opposite of fake it till you make it. That saying drives me bonkers, because faking it is inauthenticity.
Sure.
I get why people say it. I understand that if you don't know what you're doing, just step in and figure it out as you go. I get that. And that's correlated to fake it till you make it. But there are better ways to have confidence. And if you flip the relationship between fear and confidence, where confidence is high and fear is low, what automatically happens to your performance? It's elevated.
Well, because you can see yourself succeeding.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't see yourself.
Can see it.
Yeah, it's the opposite. And then so when your performance is better, what happens to the results? So there you go.
Yeah. All right. So let's put this in the context of a typical client of mine,
right,
who is a business owner, and they're probably around my age. I'm 58 now, I guess. So thinking, okay, I've had this really successful run with my business, and the next stage for me, the next transition, is out of my business somehow, some way.
To sell your business,
to sell it, whatever it may be. You get to a certain point, and that next stage needs to be clear, because you can't be in business forever.
Right.
And so what happens there a lot of the time is that they're, from a rational standpoint, that makes sense. But as you mentioned, the subconscious is going, no.
What am I going to lose?
Yeah, exactly. So let's put this in this context. How do these steps kind of get things better in alignment for that?
Right. So that's why clarity of vision, or this clarity of the experience, is so fundamental to the outset of where you want to end up. To have a very clear idea, and I'm going to use this Olympic story as a metaphor, and then get back to yours.
Okay.
At the very beginning, I made sure I was really clear on what it would feel like to march in the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games.
Okay, and I can see that's an emotional type response.
But
it'd be cool.
The five senses. What does it look like? What does it taste like? I remember having a cookie in this imaginary outcome, right? And then the emotional buzz of, if this comes true, how does that feel? And it sends a tingle up and down the spine, right? So when you have a very clear experience as the outcome of where you want to head, 58 years old, want to have an exit with my business, want it to be able to go well. There's all sorts of voices that are going to say, hey, this is a bad idea. What are you going to lose? What if you don't get paid enough? What if the brokers screwed you? All these what ifs, right? To be able to have an outcome that has an emotional buzz attached to it ends up being what north is to a compass. You just go, oh, okay. And so there's a technique in The Ant and the Elephant where the ant realizes there's limiting beliefs, or there's naysayers that come from the outside or from within that go, whatever, this isn't going to work, all these bad ideas. And the ant asks the elephant, is this part of my vision, or is this taking me in the wrong direction? If it's taking you in the wrong direction, the ant says to the elephant, thank you, but that's not part of my vision. My vision is, and then you pivot to what the emotional buzz is. So you're basically eliminating patterns of limiting beliefs that will take you in the wrong direction. And we all have them. We have them in everything in our lives.
I think business owners going towards an ultimate transition can have a lot of it. Okay, because the problem that I see a lot of the time is, things are going really well. I mean, you've succeeded, and you're making more money than you ever made. It's easier than it ever was. It's like, why change this? But, the rational part of you says, well, time marches on. I'm getting older and older. As a savvy business person, you're always trying to look out into the future and make decisions now that will help you deal with what you see in the future. So it's a very rational type decision when you start saying, yeah, okay, it's time for me to transition, however that may be, get ready to sell, whatever it may be. I think that we all as business owners have a hard time getting super excited and emotionally, I guess you could say, emotionally aligned, to that end result.
Right.
And I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain and think, how can we get better alignment on that?
Yeah. Well, alignment is, even saying the word means that it's static, that I'm aligned, right?
Okay.
Alignment is a dynamic. And you're always referencing, am I aligned? Am I aligned? Am I aligned? And every once in a while, I've got a friend named Chris who said, balance? I know balance. I recognize it every time I swing right by it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, balance doesn't exist.
And nor is alignment.
Okay.
Alignment towards that is really referencing what is, that north on that compass. What is that emotional buzz? And is this aligned with that? Yes or no? It's a yes or no answer. If it's misaligned, then the ant says, consciously, you say to your own subconscious mind, thank you, but that's not part of my vision.
Okay.
My vision is to stay aligned with that. And then you're right back in that alignment, that pocket.
So you haven't found it yet. If rationally you think this is the right thing to do, your argument is that, from a subconscious standpoint, if you're not getting the right signals, then you need to keep looking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's constantly seeking, Carol Dweck wrote a book called Mindset, right? She calls it the growth mindset or the fixed mindset. A fixed mindset, good luck. Good luck saying, oh, I know it. I've got 30 years experience. I know what I'm doing. I know how this works and all this kind of stuff. And good luck. But with an open mindset, there's the ability to be able to say, oh, wait a minute. What if AI became part of this solution? Or wait a minute. What if I talked to somebody like yourself from an outside perspective? What if? So that's part of the dynamic. And we're dealing with uncertainty right now. Always. But it seems to be the banner that's flying past our eyeballs every minute. What's going on? What's the certainty? There you go. What is north on the compass for you? What is that emotional buzz? And in this book, The Ant and the Elephant, it's the oasis, right? It's a parable. An ant finds out he's on the back of the elephant, finds out I'm not going to get to the oasis unless I align my elephant. And then there's this whole process to be able to align your conscious and subconscious mind. And I didn't say it was anything other than a process. It's just this dynamic that's constantly being tweaked and fixed, and a growth mindset. So, and then you might get there or might not, but is there an emotional buzz attached to this? Does this give you joy? Does it give you energy? And then I did that with the Olympic journey. I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm only going to do this as long as it's fun.
Okay.
Because it was so beyond extraordinary. It was so unlikely that I would make the Canadian ski team if I had no ski race experience. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm living in Calgary. The next Olympic Games are in Albertville, France. I watched the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games, and I realized I'd lived my entire life not going towards uncertainty. And that sting of regret, that the pain associated with not once in my life had I really gone into uncertainty with a clear idea of what the outcome could be. And it was facilitated by pain. It was facilitated so often. You referred to me as a motivational speaker, right? Motivational speakers, what's your dream? What do you want to be part of? What do you want to build? All this aspirational stuff.
Yeah.
Think of the best lessons you had in your life. Were you comfortable or uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable.
All right. So why just have aspirational goals? Why not take what never is going to, I'm going to experience again, and coupling those two together. What's the aspiration and what's the pain that you never want to experience again?
Yeah, I can relate to that. My best story along those lines is, I was in the Navy, and I remember, basically it was a senior chief at one point. He was talking, I was in a school of some type for something. Yeah. And he said, if you're ever comfortable, that's not good. You should always feel uncomfortable in what you're doing. And I think that's different than the fake it till you make it, like you said. I think it's just that.
What did that mean to you? What did this mean at that age?
To me, at that age, it meant that I needed to seek, harder stuff. That's what it meant to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I think it meant that.
It's good advice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good advice. Yeah. And if I ever got to where, it's like, oh yeah, I got this. This is easy, and all that kind of stuff. That's not a good place to be. That I should always be seeking to be uncomfortable. And I think I still feel that way. That's something that's important to me. To continually be pushing to grow, et cetera, and so forth. No matter what it may be. The disconnect of that compared to kind of your analogy, for me at least, is the idea of the subconscious and seeking out that emotional response. I think a lot of times when I've thought about being uncomfortable, it was like, well, I need to be uncomfortable in trying to seek this goal that seems very rational to me that I need to seek. And I think the emotional side of it is something, honestly, that I think has been lacking in my decision making.
Well, women are very good at it. It's called female intuition. Right?
Yeah.
And we suck at it because we go, well, where's the data, right? Where's the, you're a CFP. Sure. You're going to want data. You want evidence, right?
I'm struggling with this right now.
I know. And that's fine. Two dudes in their late 50s, early 60s talking about we need a woman. Anyway, so.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Whether it was one generation ago or 7, more than likely as an American, an ancestor of yours took an extreme level of risk in order to create a better way of life for themselves, their family, and eventually you. Most families have a story to tell, at least one story. My family ended up here in Texas when their wagon broke down in Del Rio. The wagon train they were a part of continued westward only to be completely massacred. I'm Rob Schultz, founder of Schultz Wealth. Our clients are entrepreneurs and business owners, the beneficiaries and true torchbearers of our American pioneer legacy. Our clients are not afraid of change. They are hopeful about the future, and they create wealth for themselves, their people, in this country through innovation, creativity, and hard work. Our job at Schultz Wealth is to help make sure it counts for something. If you're a successful business owner, let Schultz Wealth help you to the next level and beyond. All right, folks, we're back. We're going to shift gears.
All right.
So this is book number 2, everybody. If you're watching this, you can see this is called The Earthquake, I can't speak, Your Journey from Setback to Breakthrough.
Right.
All right. So I thought we had a really cool discussion on, this alignment and this emotional stuff. And then it got just way too touchy-feely for me. We had to just take a break, right? So now we're going to talk about something really uncomfortable.
Yeah, right.
And I suppose that's going to be failure, trauma, when things are not going well
right.
for whatever reason,
Right.
Whether it's external, internal, or whatever it may be. Not enough. You're pushing me out of my zone here.
Yeah.
But that's what this book is about, right? An earthquake, a big shift that's occurred.
Right.
Okay, I love it. Tell me
Well,
about
the
it.
opening line of this book is there's no linear way out of chaos. And when you let that bake for a minute, you realize if it's not linear, then what is it? Like, how do I get out of the chaos? And I am going to be a little transparent here with this book is if you've ever written a book and it's a good book, it's because you started with a good concept.
Mm-hmm.
So with the ant and the ant realizes he's on the back of an elephant, the ant and the elephant line, and then there's this formula, this prescriptive methodology and how to get to where you want to go, right?
But what you're saying is that's not linear?
That the ant and the elephant is linear, but this is not. Because
All right.
when you experience a metaphorical earthquake, lose a child, bankruptcy, get fired, divorce, lose all your wealth or you're upside down. I mean, everything that could or anything that could happen that is a personal earthquake, what you knew is foundationally under your feet gone, then where do you go? And what's our reaction typically? And our reaction typically is that we experience, get catatonic, paralyzed. I don't know what to do. Indecision just takes over. Okay. And so the ant and the elephant was doing great. LeBron James quoted it in Sports Illustrated. There was actually some noise that the Dalai Lama liked the book. FedEx picked it up. The Dalai Lama did endorse this book, but because I chased him down, I said, "How'd you get the Dalai Lama to endorse your book?" And I said, "Well, I knew a monk who knew a monk who knew a monk." So, and then that's how I got to the Dalai Lama.
Okay.
But anyway, the point behind this, I had the concept. What if the ant and the elephant experience an earthquake? What then? What do they do? And it took me 5 years, simply because I had, in 2008, as we all had, experienced a financial earthquake.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had made 2 aggressive, proactive, not thought through as far as if I had a crystal ball, initiatives that were both over $1 million each, highly leveraged, and basically annihilated my financial situation.
You were not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how. I thought, dude, I just called you dude. I got to the Olympic Games.
Don't call me bro. That's the modern dude.
Oh,
right?
is it? Yeah, right. Bro is.
Yeah, bro. Let's not.
We're not.
Bro.
No, I haven't even. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Dude's fine. At our age level, we can do that.
So I got to the Olympic Games. I knew how to. I mean, I've gotten to the New York Times bestselling list. I was inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame with Zig Ziglar, Og Mandino, Jim Rohn, dead guys. I mean, I was on top of the world, and I knew how to do this. I knew how to create an outcome of my own making. Right? I knew how to get there. And this earthquake was so disorienting and so frustrating that stuff started to show up, and I went, maybe I lost it, maybe I don't. So that all this confidence, what we talked about earlier, was destroyed. And I mean, I was sitting at my desk not far from here, and I was just started crying because I didn't know what to do. And it took 5 to 6 years to actually come up with a formula to turn around from an earthquake. And that's what this, and again, this is a parable. So the ant is disoriented. I mean, it's autobiographical, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. And it's the ability to be able to turn things around when there's no formula to turn things around, when there's no methodology that you can pull from. And that became a very, very, very challenging assignment to write a book that would be for those who go through that setback. And the audience that has resonated the most with the earthquake right now is our veterans. I mean, everything was, well, you experienced this. I mean, you knew what your day was about. You knew when you woke up and you knew when you went to bed. There was this systematic, regimented, very clear outcomes. This is your assignment. And it's gone, right? That is a personal earthquake. And
Sure.
what if you couple that with PTSD? What if there's some trauma attached to that? I mean, and if there isn't, then you're going to couple the trauma with disoriented uncertainty. What do I do next? What's my meaning? Am I worth it? I mean, if 22 veterans are committing suicide every day,
Yeah, it's a problem.
every day in this
Yeah.
country, that is a problem. And one is too many. And to be able to have this resonate with veterans and really anybody that goes through a setback, personal or with their business, that's why I wrote this book. And it took a minute.
Cool.
It took a long time to figure out what that formula is, but I had to figure it out for myself first, and then support that with research. So, yeah.
That's cool. I'm really glad you wrote that book. 2008 taught me,
Uh-huh.
that if you expect everything just to always go great,
Right. Blue sky.
think again. It's not, and we've both lived long enough that I've had several earthquakes in my life, and I'm sure you have too. And they're hard. They're really, really difficult. I did a webinar on LinkedIn here recently, my monthly webinar kind of thing, and I'd found a quote that I thought was kind of cool and kind of went back to my nautical background. Calm seas, an able sailor, never did they make.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's interesting from a couple of standpoints, and we'll see how this relates to kind of the way you're thinking. First of all, yeah, it's true. I mean, you got green water coming over the bridge and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing that, besides just experiencing it, that's going to give you that experience. It's true.
Yeah.
Okay. However, all those calm seas that you had, if you use them to train, prepare, and be ready, if you're using that time
Right.
to the best of your ability,
Right.
to just be ready, that helped too. So you need the calm seas too, and you need to be able to use them effectively. That's kind of what I was thinking of along those lines.
Yeah, sure.
know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty academic for an athlete or a musician or an artist or somebody in the military or somebody on that learning curve where they're supposed to learn how to sell, for example.
Yeah.
That they will put in the preparation in order to necessarily perform well when it's demanded of them.
Right.
In sales to athleticism.
Right.
But now we've got a business, we're ticking along, where widgets are selling or our services are being engaged with. And that complacency,
again, goes back to my senior chief, it's not a good place to be.
Yeah, no, it really truly isn't. But it's really a balance of both. And if anybody's in that place, take your calendar, carve out that growth mindset. This hour is growth mindset hour every day. And it's on my calendar, right? I'm going to be in that growth mindset for that hour every day. In fact, it's from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. every day.
For you?
If you try and get on my calendar, you won't have access to that because one of those Calendly type invite things.
Yeah.
You're just not going to have access to it because I set aside time for that growth mindset. And I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just practicing what I preach, so.
Well, yeah. And just making sure that you're growing and prepared.
Yeah. And seek the discomfort. That's something we don't do, especially in this country.
No.
Is it comfortable? Oh, no, I don't want to be part of that.
Right.
That's where the learning is. That's where the education is.
That's where you got to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so this earthquake comes along, hits you. What are we supposed to do?
I actually call it the solution loop. And the solution loop is first designed to be, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? It's really this eternal quest to see if something new will work.
Okay, kind of like testing.
Yeah, but what got you here, what I had to realize for myself, and everybody has to realize this eventually, what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you there.
Yeah, something's got to change. Yeah.
But depending on how successful you've been, then you go, no, I know how to do this. I've got this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know what to do. But what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you there, needs to be embraced at the get-go. And that's not necessarily a comfortable thing, but worthy of poking at, worthy of, peeling and, worthy of looking under the stones. I mean, understanding the kinds of things that may be missing. The second piece is in the solution loop is the relationship between your conscious and subconscious mind has changed. When you go through an earthquake, your conscious mind is going, I got this. Your subconscious mind has been impacted with a certain amount of pain. Something in this earthquake was so painful that you never want to feel that again.
Okay.
And that pain will be something that the subconscious mind is going to march towards. The elephant is going to march towards away from the pain.
Away from the pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
And John Amat, first Canadian to summit Mount Everest, said, the further you run from fear, the larger it gets. The inverse of that is when you go towards what you fear, the smaller it gets.
So your subconscious is trying to get away from the pain, from the fear.
Right.
And you got to turn it around somehow.
You got to turn around and go towards it.
How do you do that?
You consciously make a decision to go towards it and then say, okay, this might be uncomfortable. This might be this conversation, this pursuit, this new business idea, this new approach. Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And we're not oriented around that. We're not oriented around avoiding the pain.
No.
We're oriented around avoiding the pain. We're not oriented around going towards the pain. Another backstory of this is something called the cognitive model. And the cognitive model is how we get results. And often our results are, think of a sales manager. Think of somebody that works for you that's not performing well, right? And you set them aside and say, hey, these results aren't where we want them. We want you to do this differently. Giving a command to somebody that's a subordinate or giving yourself a command of these results in my relationship aren't working. These results in my business aren't working. These results that I'm seeing in the mirror when I get out of the shower, that's not working, right?
Yeah.
So what do? I go on a diet so that I have better results. The cognitive model is picture a yield sign. Do you do post-production? Can you put up an image after the fact?
Maybe.
Well, let me describe it. So for those of you who can see us visually, think of a yield sign. And the yield sign has three sides to it. Mm-hmm. Each of those three sides has three words: beliefs, attitudes, and truths.
Okay.
Beliefs, B-A-T, beliefs, attitudes, and truths. We all have beliefs, attitudes, and truths that we filter information through. So let's say you lost your largest account, right? And it's devastating for your business. This is an earthquake, and this information passes through your belief, attitude, and truth that may have shifted now because you've experienced this earthquake. So your belief is these large accounts can't be trusted. Then my truth is that I can't trust people. And that person is somebody that reminds you of your father-in-law. So I can't trust people that look like this. And you might have all these subconscious constructs.
Biases basically get created. Yeah.
The biases get created. And we then judge that information. So it's filtered through this yield sign. That information passes through to, then we judge that. And most of our judgments are unconscious. If your conscious mind is processing with 2,000 neurons, you know what your beliefs, attitudes, and truths are consciously. But there are 4 billion neurons every second going off in the same second. You got a shitload of unconscious beliefs that are below the surface, below consciousness. And so those beliefs, attitudes, and truths are fundamentally the filter for how we will judge a situation positively, negatively, neutrally, understanding that it's going to work or not going to work. And then we take action on that judgment. And then we have those results. Meaning, you don't start at what do I do to get better results in the cognitive model. You start at the beliefs, attitudes, and truths in the first place. If you want to know what your beliefs, attitudes, and truths are, just look at what your results are, which people don't want to hear. Wait, no, I'm a victim. That somebody did that to me. This is because of a situation that happened. There might be all these rationales that are being able to rationalize it and say, no, it's because of that. So the cognitive model means that how do we have a shift in our beliefs, attitudes, and truths at a subconscious level? And that's why I wrote The Earthquake, is that is not changing your mind about how you're going to approach something consciously, your conscious mind. It is changing your subconscious mind, which could be, for example, do you have kids?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're young adults now?
Yes.
Okay. Same, right? Yeah. When our son, our oldest, was 16 years old, in his teen years, I mean, it was almost textbook. He's an artist. He's a musician today. A super fine human being. I'll make decisions based on how he would make a decision. Like, he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, that's great.
But at the time, total jackass. And he hated rules. His belief, attitude, and truth was that rules are, I don't like them, I'm going to push against them, I don't like rules. So he has an unconscious construct about belief, attitude, and truth about rules. And as parents, we couldn't get through to him. We just could not. He was pushing back on everything. Well, I took him climbing in the Himalayas, right? I'd been a couple times before, and I offered it to a 16-year-old boy who said no. And I went, all right. And so he comes back about a week later and said, well, I'll go. I'll just go. I'll just do it for you, or whatever he was trying to get across. I knew that he would be face to face with rules, Mother Nature's rules. And let me know how that works out for you, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Okay, so we're climbing, it was a 17,200 foot summit, right? Total ass kicking. To get there, to acclimatize, took a week through just remote parts of the Himalayas on the India side of the Himalayas, way far away from Mount Everest and all that. And every day he would be pushing back against the rules. He finally had to fundamentally, at a subconscious level, understand, oh, I need to adapt to the environment's rules. I don't need to push against those rules. I just need to adapt. The reason I bring that up, Max didn't change his personality. He changed that belief, attitude, truth by maybe 3 degrees. And that 3 degree shift at port can end up being in a place 1,000 miles different than where he was, the trajectory where he was headed, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah, these kinds of earthquakes that we experience are made more difficult if we always do what we've always done.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So, my financial planner brain again, okay? Which is, I can't help it.
Well, we are in your office, so love it.
Can't help it. So what I've found, and maybe this relates, you can tell me whether this aligns or not, kind of what you're thinking. Uh-huh. We're sitting there and just same deal. You want to climb a mountain, you want to achieve something. So you have a goal, just like the sales goal. This is why it kind of hit my brain. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, these are the results that we want.
Right.
Financial planning will define that very clearly. Mm-hmm. It'll also define where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have truth, I guess you could say, from that standpoint. Right. Now, getting from where you are to where you want to get to is a little fuzzy sometimes.
How could it not be fuzzy, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure. But there's so many variables, right? And on top of that, I've had it before where we're sitting there and I have to tell the client, honestly, it's like, well, this is where we need to get to. This is where you are. Just kind of look them in the eye and say, I don't really know how you're going to get there. Uh-huh. So what's happened is that there's a lot of uncertainty there, right. Some uncomfortableness.
Right.
And then we have to step into it. The next thing that I generally say is like, you know what? We don't have to solve that right now. All we have to do is know where it is that we're trying to go. And it's amazing. The human brain is incredible.
Right.
We can process this over time and solve that problem, even though we don't even know what it is today. And I would tell you that is true.
Yeah.
That happens. And it's
Probably 100%
crazy.
of the time.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's if you step back just a second and think about the awareness we have with our conscious mind.
Yeah.
All the data and the information and the evidence and your life experiences, you can recall with your conscious mind and draw from and say, based on my experience, based on what I've seen, based on what I know, these kinds of things need to occur. That's with 2,000 neurons every second. What is the awareness of a subconscious mind with 4 billion neurons every second?
Yeah. Oh, so much more. And I think we rely on that a lot more than I was willing to admit until we had this discussion.
Yeah,
that's very much a crucial ingredient to success, to be able to achieve goals. And I can certainly see where if you're in the throes of defeat, I couldn't help but think, speed skier, you go back to for us, you can remember it, 1978, CBS, what was it? The agony of defeat.
The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Yeah. Hopefully you never had a crash like.
Oh, I've crashed like that. Hell yeah. Are you kidding me? Yeah. You know the expression, uh-oh?
Yeah.
In speed skiing, it's and then it's letting all go hell breaks loose.
Yeah. So, being within that situation and having to figure out how to climb out of it and having to, I guess, trust your subconscious in a lot of ways to be able to solve those problems for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing that comes to mind right now is something I kind of mentioned earlier, and I'm going to do this as long as it's fun. As all the research that I've done, 10,000 hours of research on all of this, the single most important pursuit is enjoy it. Enjoy this moment, right? Enjoy this, because the past and the future are irrelevant to the joy that you can experience today. And if you're in that elevated state, right? If you're in the elevated state of being joyful, then this subconscious mind is going, all right, I got an answer for you. Ka-ding! And so it's going to send up information. It already knows in many ways. And the subconscious mind, we haven't even scratched the surface of the kinds of awareness that we actually could have access to. But it's just math, right? It's just math. If 2,000 neurons have this profound state of awareness, what kind of awareness could we draw from at the subconscious level? Right.
Yeah, and get a little bit more in tune with that. And even when you're in that sustained level, like you said, it's still not linear. It's still moving.
Oh, yeah.
It's moving in all different types of directions.
And unexpected stuff happens, and you go, I didn't see that coming. And so, sure. I mean, but can we enjoy this right now? Yeah. Right. So, yeah. That's what for most of my living is made from giving keynotes at conferences and conventions, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And when I give a keynote, the meta message through the whole thing is have fun. And so I demonstrate that through a lot of funny stories. So I couldn't afford a wind tunnel, so I had to board a friend who was a race car driver and got on top of his car and went down the road at 100 miles an hour.
You are crazy.
In a pink rubber suit. Oh yeah, but the fun stories and being able to live in integrity. I do have a saying that is, winning is a journey of integrity. Mm-hmm. And integrity means something, I think, different to everybody, but basically along the lines of alignment. Am I aligned with who I am, what I believe in, what is necessary to happen, what gives me energy, what kinds of things will allow me to feel good about this moment right now? And that's winning. And when it's overlaid with, in my keynote, whether it's real life, it's just having fun. I don't think I've been all that funny on your podcast right now, but it's really essentially a piece of it. Yeah.
That's cool. All right, Vince. So the ant and the elephant.
Yep.
The Earthquake, Your Journey from Setback to Breakthrough. I assume we can get these books just about anywhere.
Anywhere, yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And then if somebody wants to get in contact with you and has other questions about some of this, what's a good way for somebody to reach you?
Easy. info@vinceposcente.com. So if you don't know how to spell Poscente, I would think it's on this podcast somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have it in the show notes and in the title and all over the place.
Reach out.
Poscente.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So folks, reach out to Vince if you have more questions, kind of on some of this stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That's the thing, man. I think that being able to live this life, through success, through failure, through earthquakes or whatever they may be, takes probably a lot of kind of getting in touch with kind of who you are and that subconscious, and feels a little touchy-feely, but it feels right.
Yeah,
I like it.
I know.
Like
it just has to feel right. That's the only thing, right?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being on.
Hey, good to hang with you.
Yeah.
Let's
really
stay in
enjoyed
touch.
it. For sure. Folks, if you enjoyed this, let me know. Let me know kind of what you want to hear from us. The whole purpose of this is to make us all better, help us to succeed, to have joy, to have all the wonderful things that life can provide to us. I hope all of y'all have a great week. Take care. Thanks.